Okay, so you and Sherry generated this. Now, the rationale behind this is exactly what the annual assessment is in this sense, right? Okay, we're going to look at data. We're going to see where there are gaps. We're going to see where we can make improvements. We're going to develop strategies to target those improvements. We're going to have a timeline for implementation. We're going to come back. We're going to see how it worked. We're going to make a decision to keep going, to change, to
Mm-hmm.
stop because we're done. Right? That's closing the loop. That's what they call in eLumen. Um, but that's what we're doing in eLumen.
Okay.
The only difference
Mm-hmm.
is for the high impact course initiative, we as a division focused on those highest enrolled courses so that we could make a greater impact and reach, a broader net, right? But eLumen's purpose is to do exactly that, okay, by discipline. It's the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same thing. It's the same process, the same rationale, the same everything. Now, because not every faculty member at the college is data proficient in the sense of like being able to go get everything themselves, all that kind of stuff. CQI takes two. When we get into eLumen, I'll show you where all that is. CQI takes two providing data. Okay. And I can show you and look at we're going to look at that and walk through that. You can supplement it as your data skills grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing's off the table because the
Mm-hmm.
whole like they're just providing data because everybody can't get their own data,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? So you're not limited to that data or um, that's it's the world is your oyster in terms of data. Like it's your course, your discipline, right? Your everything, and think outside the box too. Like with this high impact stuff, what I was really trying to get people to do is, I think you and I talked before about this. I've talked to so many people on these kinds of conversations. I lose track, but I believe you and I talked about it. Um, you know, there is no limitation to changes, improvements, strategies that we can come up with to help students succeed, whether it's support, right? And
Mm-hmm.
resources outside of the division that the division can support. It's not just curriculum changes or assessment revisions or right.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's potentially other things. It could be as simple as strategies to keep students engaged,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or yeah, it could be anything. So don't limit yourself to like the vision. And sometimes we think of eLumen as we have to follow, this eLumen robot, and we got to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to. It appears that way because they're trying to create a process that can accommodate the masses, right?
Mm-hmm.
But think about the spirit and the intent of what you're doing, whether it conforms to the eLumen box or not. That what you're doing is exactly what the high impact course process is that cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're doing it in a manageable way that you can point to that says, okay, well, yeah, I didn't do 165 this year because it's not on my cycle.
Okay.
Right. I did
Mm-hmm.
219 and I did 201 or whatever. It's really the process is really that simple in terms of understanding. Yeah, I mean it's not complicated. You understand that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you are the discipline person, along with whoever else, but you're the discipline person that guides the division or the discipline. So these kinds of decisions are not CQIs and eLumens and the deans, and these are your decisions too. And what I've been trying to do is, help make people more data
Yeah.
capable,
Mhm.
right? Because the more data capable you are, and it's a process, right? It's just a building process, right? And the more data capable you are, the more you're able to really make this kind of thing and this process that feels like busy work when you don't know really what's going on into a meaningful activity,
Mhm.
right? That you can defend, and like you don't have to worry about, or like, oh my God, I hope I did it right, or I hope I did it. Of course you did it right. If you understand what's going on and you're doing that, you did it right.
Mhm.
Right. And then the more data capable you are, the more informed you are to.
Mhm.
I told department heads when I was on one of my rants, I remember saying basically, look, if you cannot find gaps, you're not looking hard enough, because
Mhm.
I guarantee you you can find gaps. Now, it could be it's modality and time and location, and of course all of the personal or subgroup demographical categories, or first gen, or age, or
Mhm.
I mean there's so many, right, parts of
Mhm.
term. So the more capable you are with data, the more this can be super meaningful. So
Mhm.
it's really not a daunting process when you understand that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, right? Like, okay, I got a plan, and this is what I'm measuring, and I know I'm doing it right because I'm the one designing it. And
Mhm.
the point is to do at the college level. They're saying, okay, you need like this high impact course thing. You guys, you need to do that in some like organized way across all of your courses. And we as an institution are accountable to our creditors to say, okay, yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's the whole eLumen thing.
Mhm.
So I guess don't overthink it in that sense, and
Mhm.
don't be scared of it in that sense,
Mhm.
because you this is your deal. Like, you're the one that whatever you decide, I mean, it's right.
Mhm.
You can get input and guidance and help and feedback
Mhm.
and suggestions, and that's why I tried to do as many of those collaborative um, things as possible. Um, I had bigger hopes that we would get a little further, but
Mhm.
I I've learned to accept incremental progress and just keep building on it.
Mhm.
But yeah. So
And really quick question, do you offer any, or does a college offer any training in the summer when we're off contract? It just seems that we're so busy with so many, like, for example, this week grading and
yeah,
grading and grading and grading, and it's hard sometimes when we're so focused. I focus a lot on my students. I work a
yeah,
lot with my students. So for me, even if I don't get paid, I'd be happy to attend a training in the summertime.
yeah. Couple thoughts on that. Number one, when we understand everything and actually are doing it the proper way, it's we're not talking about it in May.
Mhm.
You've done this. You're already prepared for it. You did it in March.
Mhm.
It's already done. So
Mhm.
it's not really designed to be something that you're doing in May at the end when you're super busy, right? So
Mhm.
that's one piece. My thoughts on the training is, and I talked to CQI about this because they do tons of training and come to the this and do that. And I heard a department chair recently be like, "Oh, you should have had us. They should have trained us on this and department head training and all this kind of stuff." But you the reality is, I believe, as a longtime K-12 educator, that it's all about a teachable moment. Okay, like I could have. the conversation you and I are having right now, but when if it's not meaningful and you're not implementing those skills and you're not doing it and you're going to do it 8 months later,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't really know that it's worth your time, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Um, so yeah, I told the department heads, look, yeah, in August, college could have given you 2 hours of this training, but you'd still be, I guarantee you, you'd still be right here asking the same
Yeah.
questions right now.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think that I prefer, I like doing these things. And I told Yvonne yesterday that I'm doing these things with people. And then you mentioned you reach out to her. And then I
Mm-hmm.
touched base with her and I said, let me just do it because I talked to her. Actually, ironically, I was talking to her all about this yesterday. Not about you, but about
Mm-hmm.
this.
The process.
And
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like, because she said, what can we do more than we're doing? I said, yeah, I don't really know, Yvonne. I mean, like you guys are always available. You're
Mm-hmm.
super, super helpful. God bless Dom. I don't know how he does it, but he always has a smile on his face, and he's so helpful. And you've got office hours at campuses, and you're always like, I don't really think it's you. I think it's kind of on the deans to, you know, it's not about knowing like this, go to eLumen and push this and do that and do this and then click send and then you're good.
Yeah.
That's not how we get to the end zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's really about understanding what it is and why we're doing it, because when you do that and you're approaching next year going, okay, I'm looking at 165 this year, and I have some thoughts about what's going on, and you're thinking about it. You're always thinking about curriculum, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the time you get to March, annual assessments are due. I know they're due. I put them on my calendar anyway, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
too complicated. So I really think that background knowledge and building those blocks with people, I think is the answer, and not just more CQI training. I think it's at a teachable moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So let me log into uh, eLumen. And I was doing this Thursday, I think it was, with Denise Riley, and she's been here a long time, and God, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she knows everything. I mean, she's involved with everything across the institution, right? She doesn't know anything of this. Like
Yes.
I was showing her,
Mm-hmm.
explaining mapping and how everything's connected. She had no idea,
Yeah.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're not unique.
Okay. Thank you. I was really
All right.
nervous there.
No, you're not unique. And I've been through that, myself. I mean, the post-bac program was kind of a pioneer in eLumen because when it all started years ago, we were kind of the guinea pig,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doesn't mean that I understood what I understood now, like off the bat. I mean, it took
Yeah.
a long time, and then over the last couple of years, working with everyone, I'm in there all the time, so of
Yeah.
course I know
Mhm.
it better.
And with
Um,
I did a lot of academic program review when I was working in the higher ed department. I mean, teaching, learning, and social studies department at social cultural studies at the U of A. And I taught myself the financial system to be able to run all these reports based on everything that we needed for our academic program review. So I'm not scared of it. It's just that,
mm,
and I became very good at it. But it's
mm.
just this program. But thank you
Yeah.
again because it
Hmm.
puts my mind at ease, and you can't imagine how much. I woke up at 3:30 in the morning today to get up, take a shower, and be on this at 5 in the morning. I had 3 hours, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 hours blocked out to try to figure this out, and then I didn't have access. So I was panicking. But thank you again.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm up at 3:30 every day because
Oh,
I'm getting older and my dog's waking me up nonetheless. But obviously, well, you understand that.
mhm.
Obviously, we have to kind of get through this year and, get through in a timely manner. So
Mhm.
my goal here is not just to get you through this year, but to set you up for success
Help me understand.
better
Mhm.
and build, for next
Yeah.
year.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have to go in as discipline coordinator, obviously, but just follow. Is that big enough for you? Can you see that, or should I go a
Maybe
little
just a
bigger?
little bit more,
Yeah, let me see what I can do about that.
so my face won't be stuck in the camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Mhm.
Okay. Now, the system takes a long time to load, going from screen to screen. So bear with that.
I took all these notes on what the video that
Oh, yeah.
Dominic had provided, step by step.
Okay. So first of all, and this isn't something that you will uh, need to go in and remember, but I want to go into mapping, um, because I'm going to refer to that when we get into um, see it. All right, curriculum map. Okay, so if I look at, you're going to see data in there about the jellos, right? You're going to see questions like, what about the jellos? How are students doing in the jellos? And yada, yada, yada. What does that all mean? So at some point, presumably you, maybe not you, but someone decided, what are the jellos? The jellos are the general education learning outcomes across the college, okay, right? So the college likes to say, we're, our students are 78% success on the jellos, and you'll see somebody put that in the presentation and do those kinds of things. And, where does that come from? Well, here's where it comes from. So all of the jellos, I think there's 10, right? And there's, sub indicators, but like number one is written communication. And if you go through, and we're not going to go through them all, but oral communication, you know, there's like critical thinking, all that kind of stuff, right? So what happens is at some point when you create a new course, right, you got to map the course learning outcomes to the jellos, meaning if you go to MAS 165 and you look at the first learning objective, defined within historical context vocabulary of Chicanismo.
Mhm.
Sorry if I butchered that. Um, then someone said, okay, look, in that learning objective in the course, Jello 1.1 is touched on, and Jello 1.3 is touched on, and Jello 1.5 is touched on. And if I go through, you'll see, geez, all over the place, right? Boom.
Mhm.
Jello 2.5, like all over. Now, as you understand this better, you might say to yourself, "Ooh, I might want to update that because it might not be accurate." All right, but what that means is when you're going in there and you're uploading your CLO data in eLumen after every term, okay? What that does behind the scenes, because of this mapping, when you say you had 10 students that all were successful on objective one, okay? That means, so you're measuring it one time, two times, three times. Let's call it three times for Jello 1. So that's 30 because you had 10 students,
Mhm.
but it's measured three times, okay? Jello 1 because there's sub indicators, right? And so you may see data that says such and such Jello 150 instances or 150 when we look at some data and you say that's not possible. I didn't even have that many students. It's not measuring students, right? It's mapped there. So the mapping of your course learning outcomes to the jellos, is kind of important because what I find most often is when you look at this mapping, it was most often done at some point in the past when whoever was doing it didn't fully understand what they were doing and probably felt like the more that I say that is done, the more I connect, all right, the better it is, right? Like that's probably a good thing, right? So, yeah, I think we do this, right? Maybe true, maybe not true, but I think that's probably occurred quite a bit. So, at some point, you may consider looking
Yeah.
deep. You don't have to remember how to get there, and I don't suggest you do this
Mm-hmm.
in the short term. But at some point, you may think about revisiting the Jello mapping. But that's how the data gets done. Like you don't do anything with Jello. You don't report Jellos, all this kind of stuff. But it's connected,
It's connected.
right? And then when you upload eLumen data, boom, the
Mm-hmm.
Jello data is there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the mapping piece.
Okay.
Now, in strategic planning, and it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because when you're lost in like where was that again? Where was that again? Well, the annual assessment is planning, strategic planning. Kind of makes sense that it's
Mm-hmm.
under that category versus the others. And then initiatives are where those kinds of things are, and the
Mm-hmm.
annual assessments and initiatives. So I click on that and I wait. Okay. And then there's a historical record. So which is great because if we're doing this properly and we understand it and we're actually doing everything that you and I've been talking about, then referencing what last year's plan can be very useful in terms of like closing the loop and things like that. Okay, well, wait, what did I say last year and what did I do and how does that connect? That kind of thing. Um, I don't know if there's any value. Probably not. If there's value in your prior assessments, it may just be a good idea to like for this for AIS. I would suggest that you do 206 because again, you did it
Mm-hmm.
right. For MAS, I would suggest you pick a course and do it for this year, and then you can work on your cycle, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
what's reasonable and practical for you, again to be able to point to, right? Yeah, I do
Mm-hmm.
that, and here's here's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nobody that can say nobody in CQI, nobody else that can say that's you can't do that. Yes, you can. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I click on the 24-25 MAS annual assessment, makes sense, and I wait for it to come up. Okay, so uh, okay, you can call yourself whatever you want. So every time I wanted to demonstrate that when you put something in and you finish a section, you hit publish.
Published. Okay.
It doesn't mean there's no point. There's a point of no return. You can go back and you can make a modification. For example, watch if I change this to whatever, I can publish again.
Okay.
So you can go back and make changes, but to record your changes when you're done, you hit publish, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's shaded out. But you could always go back.
And the other sections, it said on the video to hit save. Is there a publish?
They're all published.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I meant when save.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah, they're all saved or they're all published. It's probably, just like everything else, over time, systems get changed and
Yeah.
tweaked and modified. And
Mm-hmm.
so, all right. So I'm just going to scroll through the sections to kind of ease your pain in terms of like you know what this is, right? So this section, they're asking like what terms, what data are you looking at for what terms? Okay, that's not complicated. All right. Mapping review. This is exactly what you and I just did. Okay, that's what they're asking. Jello mapping, and what it says is, hey, have you visited this and looked at it? Like, is it all good to go? Um, And if I was you at this point, I would say something like, I went in and reviewed them. I think I should, if it's true, I should probably look at revisiting and revisiting the mapping in the fall.
Okay.
Um, but that's easy
Mm-hmm.
once you understand. Again, once you understand what that mapping is, I can help you find that mapping and locate, but CQI can as well. But so then the next section is okay. This looks confusing, but it's not. So you're not MAS is not a program.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So program learning outcomes are the same for you as general education outcomes, right? So CLO to PLO mapping is the same thing we just talked about, right? It's exactly the same because PLOs for you, there is no program
Yeah.
learning outcome. Like, how would I handle something like this? What I would say is I would just keep it real. Like, well, MAS is not I'd capitalize it, program. So there are technically no PLOs. However, the Jellos are considered PLOs in 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 practice, and as noted in the Jello section, those Jellos will be reviewed in fall 2025
Mm-hmm.
for possible revisions. And the only reason I typed this, and I'm going to save it so it'll be there. See,
Okay, that's right.
yeah. The only reason I typed this out is because I want you to feel like the realness of it in terms of like you're not putting on a show for anyone here. Like this is for you and for your discipline, and so speak the truth. Like if there's a dumb question, like you don't have PLOs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just give them some facts. And so anyway, so I hit publish. Now, okay, outcomes section is where you have this blue folder.
Yeah, I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they all have folders. I think most of them have folders, but they're all not blue. But in the outcome section is where they put the data. So that data that I was talking about earlier, this like the college-wide data that you got to go scroll through.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's in there. So let's look at some of that. I have them downloaded.
Yeah, I downloaded just in case. I was just reviewing them, trying to
Yeah, yeah.
make sense out
No,
of
I
them.
have. Yeah, yeah. Uh, GWS. Yeah, I think. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Oh well, let me just download them again real quick. So let me do this.
So one of them is similar to what Francisca had sorted out and sent to us.
It's exactly the same. Every discipline, every course, every person at the college has the exact same data because it's just one document
Yeah, yeah. And
with
she
everything.
sorted it out for us, right? And sent us a different
I don't know.
spreadsheet. Okay.
It's
They're probably easier if I just go here.
it doesn't matter. It's the same. Whatever she sent, I guarantee you that she didn't create her own, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's she's not quite that advanced on the data scene, so
Mm-hmm.
she's working with what they provided. I did spend some time with her, helping her interpret
Mm-hmm.
some of the data. But let me pull it up. Um, okay, I'm going to just put it here. Let me make a folder just for fun. Okay. Just want to know what folder to delete when I'm done. Okay. Let me dump these in so I can pull them up. Success, participation, productive grades. Okay. Where are they? It says they're uploaded. Oh. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I put them somewhere else by accident. Let me put them in here again.
Maybe on your regular folder, your computer folder, not the drive. Maybe it went there to downloads.
No, I'm in the drive, but yeah, I don't know. I try to keep my drives clean, but well, I do stuff like this all the time, so I always want to go back and like delete stuff. And sometimes I just
Yeah.
make a folder and put your name on it. It'll trigger. Oh, okay, I don't need that. Um,
So what time do you go to sleep if you get up at 3:30 every day?
well, I try to go to sleep about 8:30, but
That's still at, yeah.
it's
Mhm.
9:30 probably is
Yeah.
fair.
1, 2, like 6 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I get exhausted. That's why I leave. I can't always, but
Mhm.
I try to leave by 3 o'clock every day.
Mm.
Um, kind of work that shift,
Mhm,
um,
mhm,
but again, not always.
mhm.
Okay, so this gives you success rates by term. Now you can get the same thing in the DFW dashboard. Okay, I mean, again, building on your. I'm not saying you need to do this, but I'm explaining and modeling that. Look, there are in some cases easier ways to get the data. This is a college spreadsheet, right? So, I mean, I could go into payment reports and wait. And it's not my expectation that we leave this meeting and then all of a sudden you're an expert on this and everything.
Mhm.
It's building, right? If you get, I'll give you enough to definitely get through this cycle. Again,
Mhm.
AIS 206,
Yeah, it's
you kind of
already.
did it,
Oh, okay.
right? So, but set you up in the mind frame of okay, next year, like this is not a surprise. Like, okay, I understand. Um, so if I go into just for fun the DFW dashboard and I say, so slow. You'd think in 2025 It was- so, spring 2024. Okay. Uh, MAS. And I want to look at a course. So, again, not expecting you to remember all this because, we trained a bit on it, but it's building. But I'm kind of modeling like there, you have the capability to do a lot,
More.
right? Once you get experience, and the more you do it, the more you learn. Okay, so I want 219. All right, now I'm looking at, here it is. All right, 83% success. Spring 24, 36 students.
Where'd you get
Okay.
30? Oh, here you go. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm just adding them, right, in the different modalities. Well, here's the total here, but I was looking down here. But yeah, so the modality difference, I don't know what other is. You probably do. It's weird, but
A
anyway,
hybrid. Hybrid.
I don't know. I mean, hybrid shows up, and
Hmm.
let's look at okay, let's look at course delivery, instructional method or delivery. I can't remember. Yeah, you're right. Hybrid.
Mhm.
Well, you knew that because but it's weird because sometimes it shows hybrid as well, but whatever.
Mm. Mhm.
But anyway, the point is you don't have to scroll through this document necessarily, right? And go through and say, okay, well, I want to find MAS. Okay. Well, MAS kind of poses a problem because it's probably in course titles. So, like whatever, something mess, right? In a
Mhm.
course title. So, scroll down
Mhm.
MAS, find it, scroll but anyway, and then in the DFW dashboard, you could look at different terms, like they go back here, fall 22 and fall 23. And so the answer to the section near the top that said terms, what terms are you looking at? I mean, that's probably something you complete at the end, maybe, because I don't know, maybe as you're going through it, you're realizing what terms you're looking at, right?
Does it have to be more than one, more than two? Is there an amount that we need to look at?
No,
No.
you know, um, when you get into that plan and that cycle, right? I think it becomes more intuitive. Like if you just kind of winging it at the end, then you know. But if you really have an organized cycle, then you probably know. Okay, well, I'm looking at these because last year I looked at those, and it
Mhm.
works. So, but to answer your question, no. Um, you look at the data that's provided, and then as your skills build, you look at additional data. But I just want to show you that you can get that stuff, a lot of that stuff yourself easier, but it's provided on this humongous spreadsheet
Yeah.
for the masses. Now, some data that's not particularly easy for you to get is related to jellos. And on this spreadsheet, they have maybe it's this one. No.
I think there's missing one. There was four of them.
Yeah, I yeah. This one. Yeah. Yeah, this is the big one.
I'm here at West Campus, and in one of my classrooms, sometimes the internet or my phone doesn't work, or it's super slow.
Yeah, it drops all the time here too. I think it happens everywhere.
I hear everybody says the same thing, where no matter where they're at. Okay, so this spreadsheet is related to Jellos. Okay, so and course learning outcomes. So what's the value in it? Well, again, it's everything. So if your Google Sheets skills are good, you could, delete. But it's just a lot of data that you don't care about, right? But if we go down to MAS, all right, I'm close. Music. Uh, Japanese. I didn't know we had that many courses running. I think this is why I get my own data. This is mind numbing. Okay. So okay. All right. So let's look at 219. So what is that telling me? Well, this is the CLO data, and again, the header at the top is not frozen, so we don't know what the header says. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy MAS, and I'm going to go all the way to the top. Okay. So in terms of CLOs, okay, and here's if we look at CLO 1, okay, right here, we look at CLO 1, these are the different terms, okay, these are the students that met, this is percent, and I only know that because they don't have it showing that way. Like if I change wrapping to like this and then make it a little bigger, you can see. So this is percent, meets, does not meet. Okay, so this is what you're looking at. When I look at this, you're looking for gaps, right? You're analyzing data. I'm looking at does not meet. Okay. All right, dual enrollment,
Where's the dual
22%.
enrollment? Where does it say dual enrollment?
Well, you can tell by the year. This is
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah. Okay.
academic. Yeah, right. Again, that was a while ago. But when I'm seeing these big numbers, dual enrollment,
Does not meet.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. Now we're at 165, but you get the principle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, I'd look at that kind of stuff. And then I would jump to you don't have PLOs, so I would jump to Jellos and
Yeah.
and again uh, MAS. Okay, there's no space. Let me try this. MAS 219 or MAS 165. Let's do that. That's how big this is.
Wow.
It's searching.
Mm-hmm. And so we can run those reports, or can CQI run it just for MAS or no? I mean, we can do it, but in the future.
Well, I don't think we can. I might have a tool to look at jellos.
Mhm.
I probably do. I'm not familiar with it if I do. Um, jellos are more kind of need to rely on their data. Okay, so if I'm looking at 165, for example, I'm looking over here, kind of the same thing, right? So these are the not meets percent, dual enrollment, dual enrollment, dual enrollment. Okay. So that's interesting.
Mhm.
Um,
Has it improved, or let me see. 2023.
let's see, fall 24, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. And this means that that's even kind of it's the same number. That kind of tells me that whoever the instructor was, like everybody did the same on every objective, right?
Yeah. But why does it say, oh, they're different? Okay. They're different jellos. Is that what it?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
different jellos, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
like, that's a good question. So this one has 330 and this one has 440, but that's because the mapping says that this jello is connected to this course learning outcome X number of times, and this one's connected X number of times. And so you come up with different numbers because one might be 4 times and one might be
Yeah.
3,
Hmm.
right?
Not student numbers. Yeah.
Correct, right? Because you didn't have 440 students.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it's that kind of stuff. And so you're looking at that. That's kind of insightful because what that tells me is all of the students that passed all of the objectives, and all of the ones that failed all the objectives. Meaning we probably pencil whipped it, right? Like probably doesn't have a lot of meaning to them either. Or maybe there's an issue. I don't know. But
Hmm.
um, they're all exactly the same percentage, meaning when the instructor, every student that was successful in every objective, and everyone that wasn't successful was not successful in every objective.
Does not meet. But I mean, they probably could have done like an NA, right? I mean, depending, maybe they didn't know how, or I don't know. Makes me think if they knew.
Yeah, I mean, valid questions. But see, these kinds of thoughts and
Mhm.
insights, when we get back to the annual assessment, actually, these are subjective responses. Like it's asking you, what did you see? Like
Mhm.
what are you walking? Right. So, and then there's ethnicity and location and stuff like that. It's the same thing by ethnicity. If you want to look at ethnicity and that kind of thing.
Ethnicity and location. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, get through it and don't, you know, I guess don't overthink this current, where we're at.
Okay.
Um, have a goal of just getting through this one and, giving it the college try, but building on, okay, I, I,
Mhm.
I I understand this process and I understand how I can use that in a positive way. Um, so that's the data. Productive grades. We saw that student credit That's the same data. Okay. So as we told, okay, mapping, Jello mapping. I thought I put that in there, didn't I? I did. Where'd it go? Maybe I didn't. Jello mapping. Was reviewed. However, in the fall, in fall 2025, the current Jello mapping should be modified. I don't know, something like that.
Well, when I had met with Yvonne not too long ago, because there was something regarding the jobs, I said, am I responsible for the mapping? And she said Francisca was. So who is responsible for the Jalo mapping for MAS? Am I?
That's for you guys to figure out. I mean, I would think it's you because
Yeah.
you're the one. Yeah, I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah, to do all of it together.
Yeah.
The whole picture.
Okay, outcomes review. So there you go. You reviewed the data. What do you think, right? You put in some stuff, potential strategies, ideas, things you could do. And timelines are important, right? So just like the high impact course initiative, right? Where I spelled it out for you. Right? Specific, measurable, attainable time, what's the timeline? Like what, you don't have to get carried away on it, right? But the point is, when you revisit this next year to close the loop, because next year, what do you do? Say if you do 219 now and you're going to do 165 next year, then here's what you're doing. You're starting the process for 219 next year, but you're picking up to 165, whatever one you did last year. You're picking that up and checking the status, revising it, closing the loop, right? So you got kind of two going on. So when you think about that cycle, think about that as well, right? And then maybe you modify the cycle because maybe you have to spend 3 cycles on a course because you have to keep going back and keep the loop open. Again, that's something you figure out. But with strategies, timeline.
So it's looking more of a big picture, not just for, okay, we're doing it in May and that's it. It's more of we're picking it up. We're continuing to look at this.
Right.
Okay.
The Jello data, same thing as the SLO data. Look at it. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. Discrepancies, strategies, whatever you think. Now, here's the piece, closing the loop. So you're not closing the loop now because you don't have an open loop, right? So I would say something like, this is where I'd kind of outline my timeline, okay? Going to implement those strategies outlined previously in fall, revisit. You got to have some implementation time. You can't implement in the fall and then in March, right? It's going to have to be the next year, right? So implement in the fall or in the spring, depending on what it is, then reevaluate March 27, right? Because it wouldn't be 26 because you're not even going to have data from the fall yet. All right, it's not going to give you any indication. So you need some data to be able to go back and look and say, and so if you did that 2 years ago and you're sitting here now and you're saying, hey, that kind of worked, I'm kind of liking where we're at, I think I'm good, that's closing the loop.
Mhm.
Moving on, you explain that. And then, what's your plan? When are you going to reevaluate? Well, that's your cycle.
Mhm.
Okay. Matter of fact, I would probably just have a little spreadsheet template like I was creating that had when I'm going to do the courses and just cut and paste that into every one I did. That answers the question. When are you going to,
Mhm.
right here, it says when I'm going to do it. This is a goofy section that they just added. How are you going to communicate these results? For you and your group, you guys are always, you and Sherry talk a lot, obviously.
Mhm.
You guys meet a lot, obviously. I would just explain, shared department head, share in meetings or shared in
Mhm.
faculty meetings, whatever. And then the productive grades. Okay. There was data on the productive grades. And all you're doing is addressing, okay, well, I mean, if I was looking at, what did we look at? 219, I think.
19.
Spring 2024, students were 83% successful. I don't see any, huge gaps at the moment. But if you, as you move on this in the future, you will start, the idea is to find the gaps, right? Like the expectation, and I don't want you to try to create something. I just want you to get through this and learn something,
Mhm.
right? And then be better for it.
Next time.
So you feel good about
Mhm.
actually, right. So yeah, I reviewed the productive grades. They look good, the yada, yada, yada. Right. Midpoint check-in doesn't apply to you. It's a program. Right. And then I comment and then close it out.
Mhm.
And that's it. Let me make sure there's no publish that I didn't push and I type something. Make sure everything's saved.
So publish each section before you move
Yeah.
on to the next one. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to, but
Mhm.
I would, because you're not locked in. You can always go back and edit. But it's kind of like, what do they call it? Like an auto save, right? Like in Word or something where it auto saves. There's no auto save, but if you do that, so I would.
So
That's how it works.
once I input all this, so I work on it. So I'll work on it tonight and tomorrow. Is that am I still good on time?
Yeah. Listen, the important thing is you know what you're doing and you're doing it, right?
Mhm.
I would start with AIS 206.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because for the most part, and I know you have this, but I'm going to drop it in the chat. Okay. You've got the framework there for everything.
Mhm.
Like literally, right? Okay, there's no mention of jellos in here. You can look at the jello data for AIS 206, right? You can comment on that. But yeah, you've got it.
Okay.
It's cut and paste pretty
Mhm.
much across the board. I'd do that first because definitely the easiest and to help you navigate. And then I would pick an MAS course, stick with one, and then just kind of work through it like we did, and then close it out.
Okay.
And then think about next year.
Mhm. Can you take a look at it?
Oh, I have to. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I have to at the end. I'm on the block too. I have to comment and publish, and I have a check mark too.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So I'll work on it tonight and tomorrow. Um, and I'll do it, like you said, AIS 206 and the MAS 219. I think that would be best for
Okay.
this one.
Yes. And while I have you, how about I can help with your evaluation?
Yes.
Okay.
So I had met with someone from HR to help me, and I didn't receive anything. I didn't know I had to do anything else because they had said your supervisor needs to do this, and that was it. I didn't know. That's why I'm so confused with my evaluation. But
Yeah.
I guess I missed a step.
This condensed. That's another thing that is not frequented a lot. And so,
Yeah, once a year, and I have to go back and ask for help every year.
right. So this cheat sheet I sent,
And okay, let me condense. And they did tell me it was a condensed time for me this time around. I remember
yeah,
that.
it is. So the first step is the goals, right? And it tells you, click on this, go here. This is what you do. And then it goes from there. So,
Okay, that'll be helpful. Thank you.
yeah, I think this document is the walkthrough that you need, the flow chart, if you will.
Mhm.
Let's see if there's anything else. Full cycle. Oh, the flow. I do have a flow chart too. I think I do.
For the
Full
full,
cycle flow chart.
there
That's
you
a full
go.
cycle.
Copy of a full cycle eval. Okay.
This one?
No, I thought you had it up there.
Oh, but that's full cycle.
Oh.
I was looking for I was looking for a flow chart like this for condensed. I thought I know I have it. They're all in here. Face size, faculty, elevation, online template. Oh, here it is at the bottom. I didn't scroll. Okay, so I'll dump this in there too.
And this is a flow chart.
Yeah, let's look at it. Let's see if it's got any value. Okay, access. Yes. Okay. It may not be of any more use than that first document, but okay, goals check-in, supervisor. It tells you when you're on the hook, right? So right here, you can see, okay, well, if I'm at that step, it's me. And then when I'm done, I wait and then Francisca, and then it goes back to me when she's done. So it helps you kind of follow it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think I entered the goals, but I didn't know I had to do a goals check-in, that's the
Yeah.
step I missed. I was waiting for the supervisor eval here.
Yeah, and that's why you guys are stuck here.
And the goal
You can't
check-in.
see my pointer, but
Mhm.
can you? No, you can't.
No,
Yeah,
no.
you were stuck there, so
In the
she couldn't
goals
see it.
check-in.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, that's what HR told me. I need that part right there. So I'll work on that tonight
All
as
right.
well.
Well, maybe those two docs will help.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you
You
so
feel
much.
better?
Yes, you don't know how much stress you relieved me because I was super stressed about this. Um,
Yeah,
and
I understand.
I am very grateful for your help. I
Yeah, I
don't feel
understand.
like it's an admonishment. I feel like it's just very helpful. Thank you so much that you really helped me.
Yeah.
And the big picture. I think sometimes when we get tasked to do tasks, we don't know the big picture. And given to us, right? There's a deadline for this, but we don't have the big picture. And I'm kind of the big picture person. I want to know why we're doing it. What is the long term? But
Right.
yes, thank you so much for.
Yeah, and then sometimes you get caught up in the following the rules, the eLumen rules. Like, hey, am I doing it right? Am I?
Mhm,
Yeah. No, you're the expert. Like, you're the
mhm.
one who's telling us you're doing it right. Like, you're the one who is the curriculum person in MAS that this is your plan. Like CQI is just, and when you run across something that's dumb, okay, or say, oh, that's a disconnect. We don't have program learning outcomes. Like in postbac, they have jellos, right? They don't have jellos. I've
Mhm.
never, we don't want to measure general education outcomes for people with master's degrees, right? Because what value does that add to the institution to infect our student data with our grad student data, right? To
Mhm.
say, to water down our numbers and say how good we're doing when they're influenced by, 700 graduate students. That doesn't make any sense,
Mhm.
right? So um, you just say, like, it's not, explain it. This isn't relevant, right?
Mhm.
Don't be
Mhm.
afraid of it's just not as structured, right?
Mhm.
That's why it's all open, subjective, right? To arm you with, to give you the data for the people who can't get it, right? And to give you a tool and to force, right? To force us into reflection within our discipline, right?
Mhm.
And evaluating things that we should, but also accountability for us as an institution to prove that yes, we do this
Mhm.
for our accreditation purposes, right?
Mhm.
And we
Mhm.
need to do it better. And the only way to do it better is to keep building on these things because there's not, a lot of faculty, they're in the same boat,
Mhm.
right? Totally same boat. Um, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's just
puts me at ease
yeah,
so much. Thank you
yeah.
so much again.
Okay, Liz, I got to go. Thank you. Have a good
Gracias.
one.
You too.
Bye.
Gracias. Bye bye. Oh man. Hey. Sí, mejor esa. La que hizo Unidad 46, el que te mandaron el sobre. Y luego, cuando envíes el correo que te cueste más, dile que quieres que comprobante que lo recibieron, o sea, que firme que lo recibieron. Así pueden saber exactamente quién lo aceptó, que no se pierda, porque son originales. Ah, no, pues entonces ya, entonces no es necesario entonces pagar extra, pero todo depende como quieras. Ujú. Oh my God, desde que apenas estoy agarrando un break, desde la mañana que me vine, que tuve 2 clases y luego entre medio estaba trabajando. Cuando terminé, además tenía como 10 minutos. Me fui al baño y comí en frega la parte del burrito que traía, todo helado así. Y luego, ahorita tuve una junta con el decano como por 1 hora y 15 minutos más o menos, pero sí me ayudó bastante. Me puso mucho más tranquila porque la Francisca me tenía toda nerviosa que tienes que hacerlo para este día y que no sé qué. Pero me ayudó mucho de por qué lo estamos haciendo y ya, bastante me ayudó. Le dije que está muy agradecida por porque él se ofreció en verme, en decir que es, I can help you, que se me hizo raro, pues, o sea, we can meet, ¿me entiendes? Y según era media hora la junta y estuvo 1 hora y 15 minutos, pero siento que me explicó bastante y me dijo, no eres la única que pues, tengo alguien que está envuelta en todo en el colegio, tiene muchos años aquí, dice, no sé ni qué está pasando. Y es lo que le dije, es que a veces nos dan cosas que hagamos, le dije, pero no nos explican por qué o cómo se hacen, dije yo. Y es la parte difícil y no te imaginas cuánto estrés, porque en la mañana a las 3:30 me mandó un mensaje, él, cuando yo me levanté muy temprano, pues, y a esa hora yo estaba despierta y dije, a las 3:30 mandó un mensaje, creo que lo vi como a las 4 y le contesté. Entonces me dijo, si necesitas ayuda, y es cuando le dije, oh my God, I guess. Y no sabes cuánto alivio, me alivió muchísimo de mi estrés que traía. Por ahorita. Sí, pues más o menos práctica. Son reportes cuando yo estaba con el Dr. Johnson, me acuerdo que me hicieron que eso de ser review del programa de 6 años, yo no entendía nada, yo misma me enseñé y me hice muy buena a analizar, a ver cómo crear reportes y analizarlos. Y es que aquí es otro diferente sistema, pues nomás, y le digo, no hay entrenamiento en el verano, o sea, porque, o sea, entre el semestre pues estamos súper ocupados, aunque no me paguen, le dije, pero un entrenamiento que pueda ir. Y dijo, no se trata de eso, dijo, no es para tanto, o sea, sí le vas a agarrar, que no más práctica y que sabe que, pero es que no hacen cosas en el semestre, pues estamos súper ocupados, pues, como ahorita le dije, están just grading, y ya, eso te quita mucho más que si me siento mal porque no fui allá otra vez y ahorita voy con la Dr. Berger que me haga un excuse para allá otra vez y tengo horas de vacaciones que me dieron al inicio, pero me siento hasta peor, ¿me entiendes? Hasta vergüenza me da ir, ya como que ni quiero ir por la vergüenza que me da, pero sé que tengo justificación, no, de veras me da vergüenza, güey. Sí, pues, está justificado, pero me da vergüenza que tanto tiempo, pues toda esta semana pasada y esa semana y media, y luego 3 días de la otra. Ya, lo voy a ver los días, pero es que me da vergüenza, me da mucha vergüenza. Tienes mucho de eso, pásate un poco. Tienes mucho de eso, pásate un poco, Teo. Ya, ya a las 4, en el Pima, tengo cita, pero es a las 4.
Sí.